Geordin Hill-Lewis, the mayor of Cape Town. Well, it's only a year ago, actually, that you were campaigning and saying that load shedding was going to be eliminated in Cape Town. That was something you clearly have spent a lot of time on. Today, you put together a 10-point plan that you've now given to the president, which I love. And I'm sure we're going to go through it in a moment. But where did the inspiration for those 10 points come from?
So, I mean, obviously, we've had an unprecedented escalation in the crisis the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've never before had this level of stage 6 load shedding. We once had it briefly in late 2019. I think it lasted 4 or 5 days. We're now going into our third week of potential stage 6 load shedding before we are told it might ease next week. So Cape Town's got its own program of trying to end load shedding as quickly as we can, and I've been pushing that very hard the last 8 months, and will continue to push it extremely hard in the months and years ahead. But I was just thinking, out of frustration, just as a citizen, as a citizen of South Africa, what can we do outside of Cape Town at a national level to help what we are doing here speed it up and get there even quicker? And for our program, the biggest issue is not really the projects themselves, the construction of them, the finding of the land, the installation of solar panels, connection to our grid. That's not what that takes some time, but it's not the biggest chunk of the time. The biggest chunk of the time is all of the endless procurement regulations, the permissions that have to be sought, the registration from NERSA, the licensing. It is a mountain and a forest of red tape that could really be simplified at a national level if there was a proper understanding of the scale of the crisis that we're in and the political impetus, the political will to get it done. So I thought, let me come up with a few of these suggestions of things that we have run into in the early stages of our own program here that could help at a national level, both for Cape Town from a selfish point of view, but also for every other uh, big mining business or big business or other municipality that is trying to do the same thing. So that's where it comes from.
It actually goes to the heart of politics, or the heart of the fight in South Africa for the minds of the people. And we saw this last week, actually in your part of the world, where Ian Cameron took on Beketele. And it was interesting that he spoke there about the Minister of Police arguing for or arguing against devolution of power. That was really what the crux of the whole thing was. And what you've put in your 10-point plan is exactly that, is devolving power from the center.
Yes.
Now, is it the time? Is the zeitgeist with us now that this could actually come in?
Yes, it absolutely is the time. I think the zeitgeist is with us now. If you look at what's happened in the rail space, this is not about energy, but let's talk about public transport for a minute. If you had asked me a year ago when I was on the campaign trail, and maybe you did ask me at the time, I don't recall, can you get this rail devolution done? I would have honestly said to you it's going to be a very difficult fight. But here we are, 8 months later, 8 months into this term, and there's been a total capitulation on rail devolution from the national state. We now have a timeline set in a national policy document that says not only must devolution happen, but it must happen by 2026. That's even a more aggressive timeline than we set for ourselves. So I think there really is a sea change in policy coming in South Africa because it just is not functioning where it is located now at the center. So it's certainly happening in energy. It's certainly happening in public transport. I think police is probably the toughest frontier because you do have a political leadership that is dead set against this. In fact, they want to subsume more power to the center through the single police bill in Parliament. So that's going to be a really nice debate over the next few years. But in the meantime, we're just moving ahead with these things, Alec. I have got such little confidence that these things will be resolved at a national level that we've just got to press on. We've got to press on and get on with the job here, and do what we can and devolve as much as we can, and we'll deliver results.
Okay, so you met with Cyril this morning, did you, in person, to hand over your 10
No,
points?
no.
That's a pity. I was hoping he'd have given you one of those Ramaphosa smiles and said, "I like this," like he did to you in the opening of Parliament in the Cape Town City Hall. So not.
Yes, unfortunately not. But we did hear back from the office to say that it's been received. He's taking a look at it, and hopefully favorably.
How long would you need? Because you have said this is urgent. I think the whole country knows it's urgent before you come up with another innovative plan.
What I think you're asking is about what we can do ourselves, and we are constantly trying to rack our brains for ways to speed up this process. So we are going to proceed without asking for what's called Section 34 determination, Alec, and just for viewers who don't know that term, that is the kind of permission that we need to buy our own power from the Minister of Energy. We do not believe that we need that permission. We believe that we are in an unprecedented power crisis in South Africa, and we're going to move ahead without it. And if someone wants to try and take us on about that, then I welcome the challenge. But I don't believe that it is right to slow down these processes with unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles that add nothing to the outcome. In fact, they just delay the outcome. The outcome we want is to end load shedding as quickly as possible.
Oh, you decoded my diplomatically termed question very obviously. You have spoken about the doors being open. Now you're going to kick it down. It does appear uh, well, that's the way you're approaching it. But from the central government perspective, has a rock bottom been reached in these areas, in rail, in energy?
I think rock bottom has definitely been reached in rail, and that is a large part. I'd love to take credit for this change, the sea change in policy, but I think actually the the system has so fundamentally and totally collapsed that there's a realization at the center that this really cannot be rebuilt in any meaningful way without devolving it. So I think there is a kind of rock bottom realization there. I think we are getting very close to that point if we're not at it already on energy, and I really would hope for the floodgates to open, and that's part of the 10 points that I sent to the president. Just do away with all of this unnecessary and arbitrary restrictions. Why do we need the 100 megawatt restriction? That was just an arbitrary number plucked out of the air. It doesn't mean anything. Do away with it. Rather, let's send out a message that says we need to buy as much power as you can produce as quickly as possible and get it into the grid without any limit. And so I think we're near to that realization in energy. As I say, in policing, it probably will take some time still, but we'll keep pushing the envelope.
What about Andre de Ruyter's plan?
On the splitting of the company.
Well, his whole plan. He apparently spent the last weekend talking to various people to say, "Don't fire me. I've got a plan, and it's going to work. And this stage 6 load shedding isn't my fault, and my plan is going to work." But he's been at it for a while now. What's your take on all of this?
No, I back him 100%. I think he's absolutely right, and I think in the long run, his plan will work. But here's what I've always said about De Ruyter, and in fact, anyone who runs Eskom or is trying to turn it around. Let's not make it personal about him. They're trying to fix that organization with their hands tied behind their back because he can't procure power, and South Africa has a power shortage. So as much as he stands up and says we need 10,000 more megawatts, or 18,000, I think he said 18 gigawatts of power urgently to make up for the shortfall and replace that which he actually has to get rid of, these ancient coal power stations. He can't deliver that outcome because that outcome is in the hands of the Minister of Energy and the Department of Energy. So he can only fix the distribution and maintenance side of the business, in particular the maintenance of the existing power fleet. But there isn't enough power there, and though that fleet is so old that he's trying to keep the old jalopy running, and there's only so much you can do. So the great sympathy that I have for Eskom and whoever runs it is that they're trying to fix a problem with their hands tied behind their back because they don't run procurement, and that is why I go back to the issue of opening the floodgates and saying we will buy as much power as you can give us, as quickly as you can give it to us, without any limitation. That should be our national procurement approach, and it is not.
When we have a look at your 10-point plan, you've got a lot of innovation in there. And my question right up front about where the vision came from, or where the ideas came from. Have you looked around the world at what's been working and said, let's bring this into South Africa?
I haven't actually spent a great deal of time doing that. No, I've got some meetings lined up with some energy experts from around the world, from the University of Chicago, coming up in the next couple of days. But actually, I've spent a huge amount of time working on this personally, Alec, over the last 8 months with our energy team, who are really a great team of people, very, very clever, very bright, and who run the country, possibly the continent's most effective and efficient energy utility here in Cape Town. And the ideas that they've come up with about how to make their own lives easier in this space and how to speed up their timeline. We've got a carefully worked out timeline for how to end load shedding in Cape Town. And that is why when we spoke last time, I could say with confidence that it will take the better part of 50 months to do this, 50. But so much of that time, if you look at that timeline, and we've broken it down into every step, so many of those steps are regulatory. They're not actually related to delivering power, and that is the insight that led to that plan.
How far along that path are you, and are you according to plan? 50 months.
Yeah, we are from our side. I think there's actually opportunity to speed it up, especially if we go ahead without asking for Section 34 determination. And especially if NERSA comes to the party with quicker registration timelines. As you know, we finished our first round of bids for IPPs. We're now in the phase of evaluating those bids. We're working on a storage tender that's going to go out in the next few months. In the next couple of weeks, 2 weeks' time, I think, we are making a fairly significant announcement on embedded generation for businesses, for big businesses, particularly businesses with huge roof space. And essentially, I mean, it's not a secret. I don't have to leave it for then. We want to encourage big businesses in Cape Town that have got significant roof space to sell us excess power, and so we're offering very significant incentives. And for the first time, instead of running up a credit, previously we've allowed you to run up a credit against your municipal bill for power that you sell to us, but we never actually sent you cash. We will now, if you want it, we will actually EFT you cash at the end of the month for the power that you sell us. And so that will help to finance the upfront investment a lot, and hopefully that gets a good response from the market, and that could also help speed up our project.
Is that legal, or is that one of those kicking through the door because it's open to squeak?
It's exactly that. We firmly believe that it is absolutely legal, and we invite anyone to challenge that interpretation.
What about the other exciting ideas that you've got in that plan? For instance, the German situation where you can put solar panels on your roof and sell back the energy. Not just German, I think Australia does it as well. Back to the city, and bringing in tax. Obviously, tax incentives would have to go through Treasury, but those kind of ideas. Is there likely, in your opinion, to be support from this ANC government for that?
So on the first one, let me say that is up to us, and we'll do that. The project that I've just spoken to you about, starting with businesses, the intention is very much to roll that out to households next. We want to check that the payment system can work, that we can send you cash at the end of each month for the power you sell us. Once that system is up and running, and that's really a matter of months, that we just make sure that it is all working well, we can then start to roll that out to residences, to private homes as well. So that's that we can lead with. The tax incentive, I think, is very important, and I really want to make a strong case to the Treasury for this, because so many people can't afford the upfront capital investment that is required to invest in solar power. It is a significant investment. For an average suburban home, you're looking at 150,000 rand plus. And just people just can't afford that. So I see that there's a lot of banks that are now offering finance on top of your home loan. So that's one way that people could do it. But I think it makes total sense in a national energy crisis to say the state will actually offer you a really big incentive to do this by offering you a partial or best case scenario, a full tax write-off for that expenditure.
It all makes a lot of sense. What's blocking it? What's stopping it?
Political will. Political will. I think I said this to you in the last time we discussed this, Alec. There is absolutely no technological reason why we should still have load shedding in South Africa. None. The reason we have load shedding in South Africa 15 years later and only getting worse every year is because we do not have the political will to focus on the solutions necessary to sort this out. And the key insight that we've had in Cape Town is that we are not going to wait around for that political will to develop. I hope that this current crisis has clarified things, and we saw the op-ed from the president yesterday, I think it was, saying that there's going to be some urgent interventions. I hope that works. But really, the key insight is you've just got to get on and show your own political will and start to do it yourself.
Geordin Hill-Lewis is the mayor of Cape Town. I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.